When you're looking to buy a home, you need someone who understands your needs, provides excellent customer service, and is fast and reliable. You need Leanne Thomas and the Jet Team. Leanne Thomas and the Jet Team serve Corona, Riverside, Norco, and surrounding areas. Please call 951-454-3805 or visit thejetteam.com. Leanne Thomas and the Jet Team, bringing you home.
Hello and welcome to the Break It Down Brown Show. I'm your host, Marr Brown. You know, let me ask you a question. Why do athletes have a coach? Well, because a coach can help them get into shape, stay in shape, focus on things that are most important to their development and winning the game, and can also guide them when things get a little bit off track. A great coach can hold you accountable and inspire you at the exact same time. Today on the Break It Down Brown Show, we are going to look at the coaching concept as it relates to our personal finances. We will speak to an expert financial coach who will help us understand how to whip our money into shape so that we can prepare for the financial future that we all dream of. Let's break it down. Welcome back to the Break It Down Brown Show. We are here with John Weyhgandt, president and owner of Western States Financial. He is a registered investment advisor and a leading financial coach and consultant. He also recently received the Chairman's Award from the Corona Chamber of Commerce. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to see you as well. And John, you know, you and I met a couple of months ago, and I was really impressed the first time we met because I gave a talk at you may not even know this or remember this, but I gave a keynote talk at a meeting, and you walked up to me afterwards and said, I have a group of people that would love to hear your message. And you invited me to speak at your networking group, which is STARS, and I plug for STARS, by the way. And so I really appreciated that. And what struck me about you was that you were really into being a servant leader, and you really wanted to give the information that you heard. So on the show today, I want to talk about your background as a financial coach, more than a consultant. I'll learn more about your business. And then on the second half of the show, like I talked about in my opening, let's give the viewers some advice in terms of how to whip their money into shape so that they can live the financial dream that they've all thought about.
Absolutely.
So first, tell me about your background and how that led you to really wanting to help people with their finances.
Well, I wish it was a perfect story that everything just went, right up perfectly, but there were struggles, and some of those struggles have created some of my passion to help other people. Okay. So when I started out, I thought everything was going to go well. I was selling real estate, and I did some commercial property, started buying and flipping homes, and everything was going really well. And then back in '91 or so, I started having some struggles. And so I went from having a condo in Palm Springs, owning my own home, having a Mercedes, a couple of employees. I thought I had the life by the tail. It was great.
Right.
A year and a half later, I'm in a borrowed car, living at my parents' house, $100,000 in debt, owing the IRS money. Wow. And so it was very humbling. And what I learned, though, is obviously a lot of things, but I learned that when money was my only focus, that life wasn't very fulfilling.
Wow.
I made some pretty good money when I was 23 years old. I was making pretty decent income back then. All this was when I was 23.
Right.
And so that was a lot for a 23-year-old. And I didn't know how to handle it.
And I bet being young and successful, it can be tough because we're young and we think that life is about making money and having the finer things in life. And you were someone that achieved those things. And I try to put my mind in the mindset of the viewer. And there are viewers out there that say, last year was a very difficult year. I struggled like crazy. My business was flattered down and things weren't quite going right. And they're looking for a way out. They're looking for this year to be better. So I want you to talk about, going from the top to rock bottom and then digging yourself out of that. Yeah. What were the mindsets? What really helped you to do that you can share with our viewers?
Sure. Well, it starts in the mind, as you know, right?
Right.
I mean, you have to get out of bed and look yourself in the mirror and get your confidence back because, your confidence gets shaken when you struggle a little bit.
Right.
And so, I had to go through that a little bit and then just basically put one foot in front of the other, refocus myself, get some goals, and then really realize that money wasn't the main focus of my life. It was really turned about helping other people.
Okay. And so what was there a moment in time that really made you switch from money to helping people, or did something happen, or what was that transition?
Well, there was a time when I decided that money wasn't my God and that Jesus Christ was my God, and that made a big difference in realizing that. And part of that was a trial and error message when I realized I wasn't fulfilled when I did make some money. And so what I realized, I did get fulfillment when I helped others.
I see.
And whether it was helping them from the bottom up or whether helping them when they're already here to the next level. Either way, when I was helping people provide clarity in their life, because there's a confusing message out there, when I did that, it was very fulfilling, and I love just helping other people.
That's great. And there's something that I like to use, a term is called why. And my viewers that have seen the show know that my story of struggle was similar to yours. I thought I was God's gift to sales way back when, and ended up being at the bottom of the ranking until I was burned out, not cut out for sales, and I should look for a different job.
Yes.
And I had to have that come to Jesus conversation. And when I did that and accepted responsibility and changed my mindset, my entire world changed. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened with you in that moment, to go from all about John to about helping others.
Helping others and then being teachable.
Okay.
Because when I was younger, I thought I knew it all.
Right.
And then I realized, when you're 23, 24, you think, oh, I know everything, right?
Right.
And then we realized that even now at my age, that I still have a lot to learn.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about the why and the purpose again, because I think for the viewer watching, I think that's one of the things that's maybe getting in the way, or may have gotten lost last year, and that is when things aren't going well, you can tend to grasp for straws. You try to you just want something to work, and you're desperate for something to be different, but you wake up and you sometimes don't even want to get up because you don't like what you have to face that day.
Right.
And I think sometimes their purpose gets lost, right? What really is important, their real values. And if money is a value, then when money is gone, it can really affect a person. So, so speak to someone that because I really want to touch on this for a second before we move on. Speak to the importance of having a higher purpose, or having a bigger why than just making money and having the finer things, and why that could be something that can help people get from where they are today to achieving success this year.
Yeah. Well, I got married.
Okay.
That was a big thing, and all of a sudden the world wasn't about me anymore.
Okay.
And that was a tough thing to learn when I first got married. I mean, because I was 26, I think, when I got married. I thought at 28, I guess. So I was dating Marlene, and then 28 got married, and I thought, okay, this is all of a sudden it wasn't about me anymore. And I had Courtney, my stepdaughter, and I treat her like my own daughter, and life wasn't no longer about John.
Excellent.
Life was about other people, and then it just evolved from there. Marlene taught me a lot about loving other people and about helping others and things like that, instead of focusing inward, focusing outward.
Right, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Marlene at a meeting, and she is a wonderful, wonderful woman. So you made the right, well, she made the right choice, and you made the right choice also. Well, you said something earlier that I think may strike people as a little bit ironic, and that is you are a financial coach, and we'll talk more about exactly what you do and what that means in the second half of the show. But we spent the last few minutes saying why money isn't the most important thing in life. And so somebody might say, well, isn't he a financial coach, and isn't money the thing he manages or helps people manage? But he's also saying that money is not the most important thing. So help us understand that.
Well, I've had money in the bank, and I've had no money in the bank, wondering where the next meal's coming from.
Right.
And I know that when I was broke, my focus was only about making money. It was only about how to survive. I woke up thinking, I have a bill to pay, I have this to do, I have to. So my whole focus was on myself and on making money. When money was no longer the main thing and I was helping other people, I didn't have to focus every day on making money. I could focus on what my purpose in life was, right? Because money, if you're just dealing with money issues all the time, you never have a chance to fulfill your purpose in life, what God's put you on earth to do. And debt can do that to a lot of people. If you're under the thumb of debt, you never have the freedom to do the things that you're meant to do.
Excellent. Well, let's use that as a transition point to your current company. Let's talk about your career. And I know you talked about how you in your early 20s had the struggles and did well, had the struggles, and you came out of it. Let's talk about what the Western States Financial and the businesses that you got into that help you to make that transition as well.
Sure. Well, it started out, I was just helping people with debt problems.
Okay.
When I started out, it was over 20 years ago, and I was just basically helping businesses that had debt problems.
Okay.
And they didn't know where to turn, they didn't know what to do, and so what I was doing is offering an alternative to deal with their debt, things like that. Well, when I helped them with that, I realized there were other issues there, not just that one problem. So all I did was, I put a Band-Aid on that one problem, but I didn't get to the cause of it. So then it was like, well, now I've got to get to what caused them to have that lawsuit or the collection call or whatever, and it was a bigger issue. Okay. So then I evolved from there to being able to help people with their life insurance and their credit and actually teach them how to budget. And then now that they have some money, what's the best way to invest it? How should they take care of their future, build a reserve, and those kind of things. So it started with the debt, but I realized the debt wasn't really the problem. The debt was just I guess a doctor would give you the term, terminology, that's they're treating the symptom versus the problem.
Excellent.
So that's where it changed for me. It's like, wow, I helped with the problem, but I didn't solve anything really. All I did was, I used to use the example of the dam. I'm just putting another hole in the dam. The dam's still going to crash.
It's still coming down. And that's a very good point. The philosophy that I teach is called Kaizen. It means continuous improvement. And part of that is to get to the root cause of something, and I've spent 20 years in the medical field, so I work with doctors all the time, and you're right. A patient comes in with a runny nose or a watery eye or itchy eye, and the doctor's responsibility is to understand what is at the root cause, because if you only treat the symptom, the problem is still there. And I love how you're using that from a financial standpoint to say, why is there debt? Why are there collections? Why aren't you investing in your 401k? Why aren't you taking advantage of all types of things? And it could be they don't know, they don't understand, it's not how they were raised. I mean, there's a whole host of things, but I love the fact that you really help people to understand the root cause of the problem. And I think a lot of individuals, kind of give the 10 steps of something or the process of something before they really understand what is at the root cause. So is that really what formed the philosophy of Western States Financial? Yeah,
I think that's where it started, then realizing that people need someone to coach them along the way, that it wasn't as simple as, knowing what to do, because knowing and doing, as you know, are two different things.
Right. and before we cut to the break in a few minutes, tell me the difference between knowing and doing. Give me one thing if somebody says, I know what I should be doing, but I'm not doing it.
Right.
What is one way as a coach that you help them get from knowing to doing?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Marlene and I have been married. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last year.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. So I figured anybody that puts up with me for 20 years, she deserves a vacation.
Yes, yes.
So last year, Marlene and I were blessed enough. We took a trip to Alaska, went on a cruise.
Great.
So planning the cruise, I realized the ship has got this beautiful gym where you can work out on board.
Okay.
And so what I did is I told Marlene, this is a beautiful gym, honey. Right. I'm going to take some extra clothes. We're going to be on the boat. I'm going to work out every day because I know you're going to eat well on the cruise, right?
Right.
So I'm going to eat, and so I'm going to work out, and it'll be great. You know how many times I went into that gym?
Does this look like the right number?
It's really close.
Really close?
I looked at it one day. I went in and I looked, what a beautiful gym.
You did say look, you didn't say go in.
Yes. So. So I knew what I was supposed to do.
Right.
But my emotions and the idea of eating at the buffet and all that, so I knew the rules, but I didn't follow up, right? So that's why we know losing weight's a pretty simple idea, right? Move more, eat less, So it's easy, it's simple, not easy, as you can see. I know the rules. It's not an easy thing to do, right?
Right. So. Well, I mean, and tell me, because when I think of the word coach versus consultant, I do sort of have a different image in my mind. I referenced sports earlier when I first did the intro, and I played sports my entire life, and I had some really good coaches that inspired me, motivated me, pushed me, and I would run through walls for them. If they said jump, I would say how high. Right. And I had some coaches where I was like, not so much. But from a consultant standpoint, I kind of see those terms as a little bit different. I mean, do you see yourself as both the coach and consultant? Do you see those as the same term, or how would you differentiate the two?
A little different. Sometimes it can be a consultant where you tell them what they need to do if they need that.
Right.
But really what I want to do is I want to coach them. I want them to make their own decisions. I want to be able to educate them. Come to my workshops, come to my seminars, come to my education series. They understand if John says this is what I should do, I want to understand why. And so I want them to make that decision on their own. Here's why I believe what I believe, and I want them to understand that process. I want to give them total peace of mind when it comes to their investments, when it comes to their choices they make in their finances. It isn't just, I'm going to do it because John says.
Right.
I'm going to do it because, yeah, John says, but now I understand why he says that. So the next time someone comes along and disagrees, they'll say, no, I understand why I'm doing this. It's because this, and this.
Right, right. Okay, well, and what I also really am enjoying about our discussion is the fact that you are focused on continuous improvement, which is really one of the steps in my Kaizen Way process. And I know from our conversations that you are always learning and you invest in yourself and you're going to workshops and classes. And so you didn't just say, I know everything and now let me tell the world what I know. You were constantly getting better. So let's talk about, because when we come back from the break, we're going to give everybody some really, really phenomenal tips on how to better manage your money and investments and things like that. But I want our viewers to understand how much you have invested in learning yourself, because that makes you an even better coach. So I understand that you've trained under the Dave Ramsey philosophy and others, and so just talk about what you've done from a personal development standpoint to help you become a really good coach.
Well, the ultimate teacher is the Bible, because the Bible has say 2,300 verses when it comes to money, material objects, and things. Most of the basic philosophies all go back to them. You know, save for rainy day. Even the ants saved in the summer for the winter months. That's in Proverbs. I mean, so have an emergency fund. Wow. But yes, I've done that. I've actually studied the Dave Ramsey, read his books. I actually teach his courses now, teaching people to get out of debt, get control of their money, have a budget. It doesn't matter how much you make, you need to have a budget. And really it's a simple process. You're telling the money on paper, you're spending it in advance, so you just don't wonder where it went. And I think it was Gary Chapman or someone said, or John Maxwell, I can't remember who said it, but it's like, the idea of a budget is simply to tell your money where it goes instead of wondering what happened to it. So I've done that. I mean, I actually went to school to become a registered investment advisor so I could be independent. So I didn't have to work under someone who told me this is the only way to do it. I want to be independent because I want to work for my clients, not for a company. And so I stayed independent in that, but I've gone through courses, I've been coached, I invested one year, I invested $8,000 into a coaching program so I could be better at helping my clients. I spent a week, one year, spent $4,000 on a week learning to help my clients. So there's those kind of things that I can invest in myself so that I can help my client. I don't know it all. Nobody does. And so I still, to this day, I have other people that I use as resources, and I have a client, a business owner, here's their situation, they want to lower their tax liability. We'll go in, we'll have a powwow, we'll kind of talk about what his options are so we can come back and give him the best option.
Excellent. Well, John, this is an awesome discussion. And like I said, for me, I like to bring on people to the show that have lived what they're talking about. I mean, that's really important to me, because if you're going to teach someone something, I think it's important that you have lived it, you've gone through it, you've invested in your own business, you've invested in yourself, and you're constantly improving, because the best coaches always are getting better themselves. And the better they get, the more they can teach. So on that note, hopefully everyone is really intrigued by our discussion and you really want to come back and learn some really key tips from John and his philosophies about how to better manage our money, work with our money, control our money, invest our money in the whole nine. We're not going to have an hour-long discussion about it, but we're going to give you some really key tips on how to do that. So please take a listen and watch a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Thank you very much.
There are many reasons someone chooses to sell their home. Whatever the reason, Leanne Thomas and the Jet team have a proven track record of selling homes in the Corona, Norco, Riverside, and surrounding areas fast and for top dollar. So whether you're an empty nester or simply looking to downsize, please call the Jet team today. Leanne Thomas and the Jet team, 951-454-3805.
All right, welcome back to the Break It Down Brown Show. We're having a great discussion with John Weyhgandt, who is the president and owner of Western States Financial. And before we went to break, I promised that we were going to have some incredible information that John's going to share with us about how to better manage our money. And so, John, what I want to start with is I think oftentimes people look at what they should do, the tactics of things, right? Do this or do that, or here are the 10 steps. But I've always believed in having a philosophy around something, right? A philosophy for your life. So talk about, and I think you have a similar perspective. So talk about your philosophy around money management and speak to something that you shared with me recently off camera, which is the success equation, or the financial success equation.
One of the things I teach at my seminars and my workshops, one of the things is a formula that I use when it comes for investing. And really it comes down to a little bit what we talked about earlier about losing weight and those kind of things coming in. And so really the the rules or the cognitive, what we know, say the rules of investing, that has to be greater than, or has to be stronger in your mind than our intuition, our perceptions, our emotions, our instincts, our pain and pleasure, right? Multiplied by what the media says. Okay. You turn on the TV every day and it's like,
right.
do this, you get bombarded with things, the sky's falling, all these different things. So if what the rules and what you know to do ends up being less than your instincts or your emotions or the media or your perceptions, then you end up making the wrong decisions. An example, in 08, you've got money in your 401k and the market goes down and you lose 30, 40%. So what does your instinct tell you? Oh no, the sky's falling, that's painful. So what do? I get my money out of stocks and I put them in something safe like bonds. Great. So your bonds have done 3, 4, 5% a year, but yet the market has gone up historic rates, 200, 250%, and you missed out because you followed your instincts, which were wrong.
I see. Interesting.
So you have to follow the rules, which would be to, if you're going to do that, you need to buy equities, buy some stocks, keep them, diversify, rebalance. As you get a little older, you want to start moving to a fixed and a little more guarantee as you get older and closer to retirement. So there are some rules out there and some philosophies when it comes to your money. Basics: get out of debt, learn to hate debt. Have a budget. Learn to do those things. But when it comes to what you should do and how you feel, sometimes those are contradictory.
Well, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know also, right? So I want to speak to you or have you address that, because this is a short story. When I met my wife, this is 16 years ago, we were dating, and she said point blank, until you become debt-free, I'm not going to marry you. And I wasn't seriously into debt, but I had, credit cards were a couple thousand, and I had bought a timeshare. I went to New Orleans on a weekend and bought a timeshare, which is a whole other financial situation. But it had like a 23% interest rate, and I was paying the minimum.
Right.
And so she had to teach me that is not right. And so we basically paid down all the debt. When we got married, we were pretty much debt-free day one, except for our house, right? And it just was such a relief financially to be in that position. But I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. And so if you're working with a client, and how do you help them understand that, because I love that equation, but sometimes the instinct and the media and all these things are telling everybody what to do and how to do it. How do you break through all that white noise to get to helping them understand the root cause of their problem, and then to move forward?
Sure. Well, sometimes I'll explain to them what the debt is costing them.
Okay.
So I have a kind of a thing in my software. I show them an opportunity cost.
Okay.
If you have $20,000 in debt at 18% interest, and it costs you every year, you're paying $4,000 in interest. Doesn't seem like a lot that year, but if you multiply that out, if instead of paying $4,000 in debt for the rest of your life, you had invested that $4,000 at a simple 7 or 8%, how much money would that grow to over 20 or 40 years? Or how about Capital One or those companies that have these beautiful fountains? 18% over 40 years is millions of dollars.
Right.
And so you really break it down and show them how it's costing them. And it's tough because every time you turn on the television, every time you turn on the radio, there's ways to spend your money. Everybody wants to spend your money.
One of the books I read that completely changed my philosophy was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I don't know if you've read that book or not. There's books that are similar. And it talked about the fact that most people get their perspectives about money from how they were raised.
Yes.
And that is so true, because I like to give real world examples because I like to keep it real with our audience. But it's so true because my wife's family, their house was an investment. So they would buy a house, fix it up and move. Buy a house, fix it up and move. My parents have been in the same house for 40 plus years.
Right.
Now it's great because we know all the neighbors and it's a great neighborhood. But then when my wife and I bought our house together, her thinking was it's an investment. My thinking was it's a home.
Right.
And so when the market went up, she said we should sell it, rent, buy back in. Right. I said, no, this is our house and let's stay. Now, I won the argument. You can argue either way. But my point is, and it's not a judgment call, it's not a right or wrong, there's opportunity cost. But in that situation, let's talk about how do you work with the couple or with people that are looking at investing together and help them understand how to manage their money together.
One of the workshops I do is on exactly what you talked about. It's, it's called, about demons in finance, because you get these, learn these philosophies or perceptions, whether right or wrong, when you're young,
Right.
and they'll carry with you the rest of your life.
I see.
And so
I see.
sometimes they can stop you. One of my business owners had this concept that employees were bad, and if I have employees, it costs me money. And he had that thought process for years and years and years, and then he didn't expand his business till he changed that core belief he had,
I see.
that it was okay to have employees because they could make him more productive and make him more money. But you're right, when you have a husband and wife together, the two are now one, and there's a lot of different philosophies. One of the things we do is we talk about getting together and have a finance committee or a budget committee meeting.
I like
you
that.
know, there's
Right.
got to be a budget committee meeting, and that's hard because different personalities. One's typically a spender, one's a saver. You know, one wants to put in retirement, the other one wants to buy the car, and
Right,
so
right.
you have to meld those two together. So you end up being part financial coach, part marriage counselor. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you know, I was smart enough years ago to let my wife handle the finances because she's a lot smarter than I am, and I do other things. But so we haven't had any financial arguments, you know, thank God. But so I think that's a great point, because a lot of people that are watching the show are in a relationship, are thinking about it. They're going to get married. My brother recently got married, and they had to have that committee meeting about their finances.
Right.
And it's critically important to do that, I think, in a relationship. Now let's transition over to, you know, the business owner. You mentioned one example, the business owner who had to change his or her mindset. Talk about how your company works with business owners and what you do with them.
Sure. Well, a lot of business owners are great at what they do, but then all their focus is on their business and running the day-to-day. So we try to is take a step back, give them a couple of options. Maybe there's a way you can, instead of investing every single dime back in your business, maybe you can help secure and set up your future also. Nothing wrong with putting your money back in your business, but you know, over the last few years when things got tough, if people put every dime in their business and that didn't work out, their future wasn't very bright.
Okay.
And sometimes that works out well because their business does really well and is successful.
Right,
But what I'll try to teach is, you know, can we be putting a little aside for the future along the way? How can we go in and maybe lower some tax liabilities? How can we help him bring in some thoughts that he doesn't think about because he's in the grind every day and he's up to here with trying to, make the product or, sell the next product and all those things, trying to make budget and deliver. And so we try to is go in and, okay, let's clear some of that. You're working on that. Let's peel some of this up. Are you taking care of your family at home?
Excellent.
Something happens to you, what happens to your family? Are you putting any money away for the future? Those kind of things. It's amazing how many business owners don't have any life insurance to take care of their families. They don't have a succession plan. They don't have these things in place. That's why we're there to help them with those things.
That's great. Now, what about the individual that is maybe single, unmarried, in business, and how would you work with them? And I'll give you an example. I worked at a company for 13 years, and my dad told me for the first 5 years, invest in the 401k, invest in the 401k, and I just didn't do it. And finally, I did it, and I would do the max, and then, that was maybe 8 years later, I looked at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, look at what's in the bank.
Right.
But a lot of people don't do things like that. If you're single, like you said, when you're young and you're sort of living life, and how do you work with individuals that are maybe at that stage in their life?
Sure. I try to show them if you start young and early, it goes a long way. The sooner you start, the better. No matter what you're talking about, whether it's investing in your 401k, getting out of debt, building your credit, buying a home, whatever it is. I would also say to the single person, find someone that you can be accountable to. Find someone that, not your best friend that you go out and drink with, or your best buddy you go to the game with, or if you're a woman, your shopping buddy. That's not who you want. You want to find somebody that has got some maturity, that maybe can tell you no. That maybe it's not the best idea to buy that $800 car payment, or I sat with a young gal, and she's making okay. She's a single mom, but her car payment was outrageous.
Wow.
And probably the point where it was going to be taken from her, and have a $15,000 deficiency. So you need someone that you can be accountable to, someone that's mature that can say, no, maybe that's not the best thing for you.
Well, and in closing, give us like your best advice, or something that if you could say, this is what I would tell someone if it was the last thing I could tell the world about finances.
The last thing?
Yeah, what would that be?
Well, I would say two things. I mean, the last thing.
All right, I'll give you two things.
Yeah, one thing would be I would tell them to contact my office and plug into my seminars and workshops so they can learn more, because in a short period of time we can't teach them all the things there are to know.
True.
But I would say that what I talked about then is get started, because everybody's at a different level. Get started. move in the direction when my life was craziness. I had to take a step before it cleared. Nothing got solved when I was standing there doing nothing. So when Moses was at the Red Sea, the sea didn't part till he took a step, right? When I was sitting there in debt and this and that, none of that cleared until I took the first step and I started making headway. And then all of a sudden things started clearing, one thing at a time. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Excellent advice. And what I would say is there's one thing about finances that I think is really important to understand. That is, there's such a burden that's lifted off of your mind when you have your finances under control, when debt's under control, and it opens up creativity. It opens up your mind to think and do and to explore some of the different things. And if you look through history, money was one of the things that really stalled growth. But when money was sort of taken out of the picture by better money management or control or things like that, children grow up in a household where they don't have to worry. And the parents are freer to do more things. And so I think what you're doing in the way that you coach people to understand the root cause of the problem is significant to really helping people better manage their money so they can better manage their lives.
Absolutely.
So John, thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully you can come back on the show very soon.
Thank you, Jamar. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank our guest, John Weyhgandt, President and owner of Western States Financial, for breaking it down with us today. If you would like to connect with John, you can email him at john@westernstatesfinancial.net or visit his website, westernstatesfinancial.net, or you can call 951-371-7608. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the Break It Down Brown Show or to suggest topics for me to break down, please visit JamarBrown.com or call 949-371-9077. Finally, reach out to me today if you would like to learn more about having me as a keynote speaker, executive coach, or consultant for your organization by visiting JamarBrown.com or calling 949-371-9077. And I really appreciate you being a part of the Break It Down Brown Show today. Thank you very much.